Hi guys, I hope that you're all having a fabulous day. Welcome back to my channel. Sometimes the luxury goods that we buy end up working out fabulously, better than we anticipated. They might even make it onto our forever pieces list. And other times, not so much. And that's all right. We never really know how something is going to work out until it's in our hands. And even then, you can fall out of love with it because of X, Y, and Z. Today's video, I wanted to share the most recent items that I have sold and why. I think I'm gonna have to start numbering these videos because I have done quite a few of them over the years just to make it a little bit easier. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure and give it a thumbs up. And without further ado, let's get started, shall we? All right, so let's begin with handbags. First up, the Bottega chain pouch in the black leather with gold hardware. So right off the bat, I think that this bag is beautiful. And even though it is no longer in my collection, I still end up singing its praises. And I know it's not for everybody. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. And yes, I do realize, as I've said in other videos, it does look like a female body part. It's not like I'm blind to that either, but I still think it is such a beautiful bag. And it's probably the trendiest handbag I have ever had in my collection. And in all honesty, it has probably been one of the funnest handbags I have had as well. Now, when this bag first came out, I was really stoked because of the chain. My goodness, that chain is out of this world. I love it. It is massive, it is gaudy, it is shiny, it's heavy, and even though it's heavy, whenever I'd put it on my shoulder, it wouldn't end up digging into my skin. It wouldn't weigh down my shoulder, which is kind of weird because you'd expect it to be like this massive chain that ends up hurting your shoulder, but I personally didn't experience that. It was actually a joy to use. And everywhere I went, I got so many compliments on that bag. But the chain was so, it was loud as well. It was so loud. I will never forget, I was at the Chanel boutique, I was checking out a handbag, and I was wearing that bag. I went to set the bag down on the glass counter, and for a moment, I thought I broke the glass. It sounded like I broke the glass. And everyone in the boutique turned around and they're like, oh my God. And it was just so loud. I mean, I'm like, it's all right. I didn't break it. It's just the chain on my bag. But I thought it was great. Another thing that I really loved about the bag was the leather. The leather, even though it was very soft, you can also feel the durability in it. It's not like it was this flimsy type of leather by any means whatsoever. I mean, you can really feel how durable the leather is, and I just thought it was incredible. Now, because it was one of the trendiest handbags I've had in my collection, and usually I do tend to lean towards the classics, I was a little bit apprehensive at first because of that, and I thought, okay, is it a long-term love? Is it a short-term love? Is it lust? Do I like the idea of it, or what have you? But I couldn't shake the bag out of my head, so I thought I would end up going for it on the pre-loved market. And I'm so happy that I did. I actually got it on Fashion File, and I think I had either $1,100 or $1,200 worth of savings from retail by going on Fashion File, and it was in immaculate condition. So I was really stoked. I was able to save some money on a really trendy handbag. And I got it in April. I used it to death, April, May, June, July, August. And then as the months started going by, creeping by, I started to use it less and less. But in the beginning, I just couldn't put it away. It was in heavy rotation within my collection. And like I said, every time I would use it, I would light up. And this bag gave me like, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but I was just like, oh, I'm so excited to use this bag today. But by the end of it, even though I would go to use the bag, I didn't have that same joy that I once had before. And by the very end, whenever I'd go to switch into it, I would end up switching right out and I'd go into another handbag. So it's almost as quickly as the love came, the love started to kind of dwindle down to the point where I didn't want to use the bag anymore. And even though I thought it was beautiful, it just didn't do anything for me anymore. And I just looked at it, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I think I'm done. I got my fix. I had it for, I think, 8 months or what have you. And like I said in the beginning, I constantly used it. But then I used it the very last time. You guys know that whenever it comes to selling something, I like to take it out for one last spin. And that last spin usually solidifies whether or not I'm going to keep an item or if I'm going to sell it. And that last time I took it out, it just didn't, I didn't feel that same happiness. I didn't grin like an idiot from ear to ear. None of that. So it was kind of like, yeah, I think it's time we part ways. But as I said in the beginning, I will still sing its praises because I think it is a beautiful, beautiful bag. It is so incredibly fun. Yeah, it just, it wasn't that fun for me anymore. And I have zero regrets. If anything, I'm really happy that I decided to go for it in the first place instead of sitting there and wondering, I wonder if it would work out. I wonder if it would work out. What if? I gave it a shot. It worked out for a little while, and then, you know, I decided to part ways with it, but I still think it's a beautiful bag nonetheless. The next bag is the Givenchy 4G medium in black leather with gold hardware. Now this bag was a little bit newer to my collection. I think I got it in September if I'm not mistaken, so it didn't last very long. And what really drew my eye to this bag was the silhouette. I love the silhouette. It was very simple. The leather looked amazing. The hardware looked amazing. And best of all, it looked very similar to the Celine box bag without the crazy price point. And I've always been such a big fan of the Celine box bag, but this one came in at either $1,800 or $1,850, somewhere along those lines. So it had a really great price point, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for it. And when I got the bag, the leather, like I said before, was beautiful. The hardware was amazing. And Givenchy just has really, really great craftsmanship. Even though this was the medium-sized bag, it was actually a lot smaller than I anticipated. But it still ended up fitting all of my essentials without a problem. Now, the reason why this bag didn't end up working out is because of the strap. My goodness. That strap is a pain in the ass. I hate to say it, but oh my God. So the strap that it has, I mean, you guys might think that, that like I'm crazy or I don't know, but it is so difficult to open and to be able to adjust it because it does come with an adjustable strap and a removable strap at that. But in order to put on or to set the adjustment or to take off the strap completely, it is such a pain. So much so, and you guys might laugh, but so much so that I actually called Givenchy and I talked to a sales associate and I asked if they can show me how to deal with the strap. Like, how do I adjust it? How do I open it up? Like, you would think it's common sense. It drove me up the wall. And the sales associate was so incredibly kind. She actually texted me back a video while she was at the store. And once I saw the video, I was like, oh, okay, I got it. Super easy. But after that, the hinges on the strap wouldn't end up they wouldn't lock into place. So it would constantly open up and it would lose the adjustment. And I tried to like fix it. I tried to maybe push on it a little bit more, what have you. It was so fussy. Like, it just makes me so irritated just thinking about it. Do you guys ever have that happen when you're so excited about something, but then it just irritates you beyond belief because of whatever it has? Anywho, so I think I used this bag 3 times, and every single time that I used it, I had an issue with the strap. It would the hinge would end up opening up and my hair would get caught in it, and then it would pull on my hair, and then you'd see you'd see strands of hair on the strap, or it would just end up losing the adjustment and it would become loose. So by the 3rd time, I was like, dude, I am done with this bag. I got home and I'm like, never again. I can't. It's beautiful. The leather looks amazing. The hardware is absolutely beautiful, but I cannot get past this strap. I can't stand it. And I even thought about swapping it out with a different strap. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna add money to this bag just to make it work. I'm not gonna do that. So I ended up selling it. Absolutely zero regrets. So like I said, I think I paid either $1,800 or $1,850 for the bag, and it was still fairly new. And when I sold it, I got either $1,300 or $1,400 for it. So I did take a loss on it, and really that just goes to show that Givenchy just doesn't end up holding its resale value as well as some of the other fashion houses. But yeah, I took a loss on it, which definitely sucked because I didn't have it for a very long time. but I couldn't do it with that bag anymore. Absolutely not. Beautiful, but such a pain to get around the strap, and yeah, no, I don't have time for that. Gorgeous, but never again. The next bag I'm actually really sad about because I honestly thought it was gonna be with me until the bitter end, and that is the Fendi Mama Baguette. So I got this bag probably about 2.5, 3 years ago, and ever since I got it, it was in heavy rotation. I loved the bag. I loved the style. I loved the shape of it. It was one of those grab and go, easy, no problem type of bags. It wasn't fussy. It fit all of my essentials and then some. Very, very comfortable. And I never had any issues with the fabric either. I got it on Fashion File and it was in such great condition, and the fabric over time, it still didn't end up wearing funky or anything like that. So awesome condition, and it stayed pretty much that way until about 3 or 4 months ago when I noticed that the front flap, the hardware, started to change color, and it pretty much came out of nowhere. I didn't know like what happened to it. I don't know if I got perfume on it. I don't know if I got some type of I had no idea what happened to the hardware because it started to change color and it started chipping really badly to the point where it started to turn black, and it almost looked like, and this is very dramatic, but it almost looked like it was starting to completely fall apart. So I must have gotten something on the bag. I just don't know how it happened. And I even took it into Fendi to see if they've ever seen anything like that, if there's anything that I can do to it, or maybe if I can get it repaired, which I thought was a long shot because it was such an old bag. And she said, yeah, unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do. We don't even, like, she said, I've never seen this happen before. She didn't even know what caused it to change the way that it did so drastically. So I was so bummed out, and before it got any worse, I just decided to get rid of it. And at one point in time, I also thought about maybe cutting up the fabric and making something else, just because I was that big of a fan of the fabric of the bag. And another part of me thought that maybe I should just leave it on my shelf. But at the same time, since this bag was in such heavy rotation, for me not to be able to use it and just have it sit in my background, I couldn't do that either. And plus, it didn't look very good either. Like I said, the hardware had changed color and it was chipping, it was like peeling, it was not cute whatsoever. I even thought about going for this bag again on Fashion File, but at the same time, I thought, what if the same thing ends up happening to that one? Especially because I didn't know what happened or what I ended up doing to the bag to cause it to change the way that it did. So I didn't want to go through that whole process. And if anything, it really ended up prompting me to want to go for the Baguette, the new Baguette, in either the leather or the fabric, just because I've always been such a big fan of that bag. I think it's beautiful. So I've always been a huge fan of baguettes in general, whether they're the vintage ones or the newer ones. I just think they're absolutely stunning, but I was definitely bummed to see that bag go. Now on to footwear. The first pair of shoes that I sold are the Gucci Princetown loafers in the color pink, and I even talked about them on my last luxury goods I sold and why. Those were the last pair that I had left, and I had a feeling that those would be next, just because I had already sold the red ones as well as the glitter ones before. And with these shoes, you guys know if you've been watching my channel for a while, for the longest time I didn't know why everybody was all about them. People were saying they're the greatest thing since sliced bread and blah blah blah, all these things. And then finally I gave in to the shoes, and they were amazing. They're super comfortable. I never had any issues with like blisters. I didn't have to break them in. They're just awesome shoes. I love the colors, and just the ease of them are just fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And with the pink ones, I also enjoy them because obviously I love the color pink, and I use them mostly in the spring and in the summer. But just like I did with the red ones, I kind of fell out of love with them. I still appreciate them. I still think they're beautiful. I have no intentions of getting these shoes ever again. But they were, yeah, I just kind of, I guess you could say I played them out. And I have a tendency to do that. When I really like something, I'm a creature of habit. Sometimes I like to go for the same thing in different colors. And sometimes that works out for me. And other times it's my worst enemy because I end up just playing out the thing because I use it so often and I have it in different colors and what have you. So that's pretty much what happened with these Princetown loafers. I loved them. I enjoyed them. I thought that they were great, but I just fell out of love with them because I ended up using them so much. So I played them out myself, but they are awesome, awesome shoes. And yeah, I have zero regrets on these either, but they were beautiful, beautiful shoes. Although I will admit that sometimes the clanking sound that the horse bit made on the front of the shoe could be a little much, because I feel like you can hear me coming a mile away. I talked about this as well in my last video, because they were just like, I don't know, like you can hear me, you know, which isn't always a bad thing, because I do like the way that some things make sounds, kind of like my Tiffany bracelets. I'm one of those, okay? I'm one of those. But yeah, I just, sometimes it was a little too much, but I played them out myself. Beautiful, beautiful shoes. Extremely comfortable, and they are exactly what people say about them. They are maybe not the greatest thing since sliced bread, but they are absolutely fabulous. But I definitely played them out for sure. The next pair of shoes are the Louis Vuitton front row sneakers. Now you guys know that when I first got these shoes, I was stoked about them just because I had always had my eye on them. I did have a little bit of difficulty finding the exact size that I needed because I tried it on God knows how many times at the boutique. And I just thought that these were really, really great sneakers. They were very comfortable. I never really had any issues with them. However, as the time went on and as years went by that I used them, they started stretching out a little more than I would have liked, to the point where even if I wore thick socks, the heel of my foot would end up just popping up. And sometimes it almost sounded like, right? It almost sounded like I was farting, just because they are leather lined. So it was all, it was horrible. I'm like, oh my God. It literally sounds like I'm farting as I'm walking, just because they were so, they ended up getting so big. I'm like, I'm turning red because I feel like I've been seen. But anyways, so they ended up stretching out a little more than I would have liked. And like I said in the beginning, when I first got them, I had difficulty with the sizing, because if I went up a size, they were definitely way too big. And if I went down a size, they were way too snug, to the point where the front of my toes were like hitting the edge of the shoe. So it wasn't comfortable whatsoever. Unfortunately, they ended up stretching out more than I would have liked. And it was just very, very uncomfortable to wear, either because of the farting or because they were just so incredibly loose. And I ended up changing out the insole on it as well to see if that would end up helping out, but it definitely didn't. And the craziest thing is that I don't have wide feet whatsoever. I don't have like narrow feet either. Mine are pretty average. And it's not like I use these shoes to death, because I do think that I have a pretty healthy rotation when it comes to sneakers, because I mostly do end up wearing Vans and Converse. So it's not like it happened overnight, because obviously I have had them for some time, I think a couple years. But it's almost like it went from comfortable, and then the last 6 months, they were like super, super stretched out. So it was definitely a bummer, but I definitely don't regret it either. And I don't foresee myself getting new Louis Vuitton shoes to replace those either. I also sold a Chanel O-Zip coin purse in the boys style in the pink caviar leather with a champagne gold hardware. Now you guys know that one of my all-time favorite wallets is the Chanel O-Zip coin purse. I think it's amazing. I love the fact that it's small, but it packs a punch. It's very easy to fit it inside of your smaller handbags, and of course inside of your larger ones as well. Plus, it also pretty much ends up fitting the same amount that a full-size wallet can end up fitting. So I think that's pretty amazing. Now with this one, I've had it for I think 6 or 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. And when I first got it, I used it quite a bit. And then as the years have gone by, I used it less and less. And to be completely honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of the boys style small leather goods, just because they do mostly, well, I don't know about now, but the ones that I had before had the plastic zipper, and I never had any issues with the zipper. I never had any problems with any of the teeth kind of falling apart or breaking off or anything like that. So that was great. But at the same time, I did prefer the zipper to be metal versus the plastic. So I started using it less and less as the years have gone by, and I think I used it maybe a total of 2-3 times at most within the last year and a half. So for me, if I don't end up reaching for something, even though I loved it at one point in time, if it doesn't just spark that joy, I decide to get rid of it and put that money towards something else that I will end up using a lot more often. You know, so that's pretty much what ended up happening with this one. The color was absolutely beautiful. It did have some wear on the corners, not as much as you would expect, especially for as long as I had the item. But still, I just appreciated it from afar, and I just didn't have the love that I had for it at one point in time. But I thought it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and the color was amazing because it was such a bright, vibrant pink. Yeah, it just didn't do it for me anymore. Now this last part is all costume jewelry from Chanel. Now you guys have heard me talk about Chanel's costume jewelry over the years. I've been very vocal about the issues that I have had in the past. I have had stones fall off. I've had posts break off. Some items I haven't had the best success. Others have been pretty okay. But I will admit that when it comes to Chanel's costume jewelry, they end up holding their resale value insanely well, especially the earrings. And sometimes you can end up getting more than what you paid for just because of their popularity, whether they have stones or not. So it's pretty crazy to see. So I did end up getting rid of earrings, a bracelet, and a brooch. Let's begin with the brooch. So the brooch, I think it's called the license plate pin or brooch. I can't remember. But I had it for maybe 4 or 5 years. And during that time, I probably used it maybe 4 times. And sometimes I would go to use it and then I'm like, no, I'm going to go for something else. I'm going to go for something else. And it got to the point where I was like, why am I just keeping things just to keep them? Just so I can collect dust, or just so it can just sit in my jewelry box? No, I either use them or I end up getting rid of them. And that's pretty much what ended up happening. Plus, there was always a moment when I thought that the pearls, the faux pearls, would end up popping off. That was never the case because obviously I didn't use it to warrant that type of wear. But still, I was like, okay, what if that ends up happening? Then I have to go in for repair, and the repair process for me has always been such a nightmare. So I ended up getting rid of that brooch. As far as earrings go, there were a pair of earrings that pretty much went with that brooch. They were these massive double, or these CC earrings. They were beautiful. And to me, they kind of look like a name, like if you had your name in the marquee with the lights and whatnot, just because those also had pearls. And those I did use a little bit more than the brooch. But because they were so enormous, they also ended up weighing down my ears to the point where probably after half an hour, if not an hour, I'd start to get a headache. And then I ended up taking them off or what have you. So I ended up getting rid of those as well, but they were huge. So I got rid of those. I also got rid of a pair of CC earrings that I've had for an eternity that were in the age gold hardware with lambskin. They were beautiful, but the lambskin started to crack and peel, and it just didn't look cute anymore either. So I got rid of those. I also got rid of a pair of Strass Crystal CC studs, and those were in the age gold hardware as well. But I just never really, even though they were beautiful, I didn't use them as often. And I think it's because of Strass Crystals. They were, I have all sorts of stuff going on, right? What was I saying? The Strass Crystals weren't as shiny. They were a little bit dull. I don't know. I don't remember them being that dull when I first got them. Sometimes I feel that I do shop with rose-colored glasses, and then finally when everything settles, then I can really see what's going on, you know? So they weren't very shiny. Plus, I didn't really end up using them too often. And with earrings, now I mostly end up using my diamond earrings, my gold earrings, my initial earrings, or what have you. And I very, very rarely do end up using my Chanel earrings. So I think at one point in time I had either 8 or 9 pairs, and now I have half of that. But with those, the ones that I have left, I definitely do end up using a lot more often than the ones that I ended up selling. Now the last item that I got rid of is the Chanel bracelet that I got, 6 months ago. It was in the champagne gold hardware. It has the Strass crystals on the CCs throughout the bracelet. It was absolutely beautiful. When I first saw that bracelet, my jaw hit the floor. I fell in love. I felt like my eyes were drooling, the whole 9 yards, right? I was absolutely in love with this bracelet. And I did use it a couple of times. And one thing I didn't take into consideration, and to to be completely honest with you, it's almost like my gut instinct was telling me, I don't think it's going to work out. I think you're going to have issues. But at the same time, part of my brain was like, dude, no one's talking to you. But what I noticed is that anytime I'd use the bracelet, the little dangling part that it had kind of flailing around would end up digging into my skin. So if I was at my desk or wherever I was, it would constantly end up hitting here to the point where when I'd come home at night, you would end up seeing, it wouldn't be bruised and it wouldn't have like a blister or anything like that, but you can just see an irritation on the inside of my wrist because of the bracelet. And it just started to drive me crazy because of that. Although, like I said before, I knew my gut instinct was telling me it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out. Obviously, you can tell the design. What do you think is going to happen with the dangling part of the bracelet, right? But as I said, there was a part of my brain that's like, no one's talking to you. Shut up. Let's just move on. Let's just enjoy the moment and let's have fun with this bracelet. Even though I saw the red flag, I ignored it. So that's what happens. I don't know about you guys, but that happens to me. Not as often as it did back in the day, but it still ends up happening. So anyways, I ended up getting rid of that bracelet as well. But like I said before, when it comes to Chanel jewelry, sometimes I just don't have the best experiences with them. When it comes to the with the Strass crystals falling out, sometimes it's like 6, 8 weeks, 10 weeks that I've heard for repair, and the repair has either been for free or the repair has been more than, I think it was like 75 or 150 bucks to get it repaired for like 1 or 2 stones. And I'm like, dude, that's ridiculous for me, you know? But they definitely do end up holding their resale value. I've just noticed that now I end up focusing more on fine jewelry and even the vintage pieces that I have from like the 40s and the 50s versus any of the costume jewelry that I have from Chanel or any other fashion house. I do like them. I do think that they're beautiful, but at the same time, I feel like the price point is just, for the materials that you're getting, I would much rather pay even a little bit more money and get real gold and get real diamonds than get the costume jewelry, you know. But that's just me. But I still think that they're beautiful nonetheless. All right, you guys. So that does it for my luxury goods I've sold and why. My part 150 something. I don't know, because like I said before, I've done quite a few of these over the years. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit more information on these items. I've never been the type of person that I will bash something just because it didn't end up working out for me. I can always end up appreciating the pros, even though the cons ended up outweighing those pros for me. But these items, like I said, I've had them for, some of them I've had for years, others I've had for a couple of months. Some of them definitely worked out and I just fell out of love with them, and others just didn't work out from the get-go and they just drove me up the wall. And I hope I was able to give you a little bit more information, especially if you're looking to add these items to your collection. And that way you can decide whether or not you want to move forward with the purchase or whether you want to hold off on it a little bit. Now, when it comes to selling these items, sometimes I do end up selling on Instagram at Minks4All, or other times I do end up selling to consignment shops or to resale websites. It just really depends on the time. And I would love to know, what are some things that you have sold lately and why did you end up getting rid of them? Let us know in the comment section down below. But I love you guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure and give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already and you would like to, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys later. And as always, make it a fabulous day or not. The choice is yours. Have a great day.